Good evening, Lance.
Good evening. How are you today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm all right. All things considered.
Well, yeah. Shirley and I went over to Durango today. Had to go to the eye doctor, and I just hate to get out around anybody with this virus.
Boy, no kidding.
Get tired of staying at home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how are you tonight?
Doing well. Yourself?
Well, I'm trying to stay well, keeping away
Okay.
from people.
Keep it up.
Yeah, I was just telling Lance that Shirley and I had to go over to Durango to the eye doctor for her today. And we just hate getting out and getting around anybody.
I know what you mean. I try to avoid it.
Yeah, us too. I really miss being around people like Linda Smith.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Linda. Shirley told me to be sure and say hello.
I miss her. Will you give her a hug?
I sure will.
Okay. I want to give it to her myself soon.
I know. Well, maybe
Thank you.
if they get out with this vaccine and it seems to do some good, maybe we'll be able to start hugging again.
Okay. I can't wait.
So we just got to hope that this vaccine that they're talking about does work. And maybe we can start trying to get back to a halfway normal life.
Well, we really need to before we all go crazy.
Oh, I mean, we really do.
Yeah.
Hello, Neva.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Neva.
Tom.
Hey,
Hey,
Lance, can I borrow your camper?
It's, I was hoping that you would notice.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's,
Wow.
I was gonna put.
I love the Christmas tree.
Yeah, I was gonna put on there courtesy of Montezuma County Planning Department, but I thought I better not do that. So
Oh,
and now I have my cat trying to get involved here. So
Yeah. Cats are welcome.
I'm gonna do Zoom Santa meetings, and I was looking for the right background, and this isn't it, but I'm still looking for the right background to do that. So I think if I do that and ask them to donate to the Child Advocacy Center in Santa's name, that'll be a good thing to do. So.
Yep. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello.
Hey, Becky.
Hey.
Hi, guys. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't do it in person.
Right.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Soon, though.
Hope so.
Yeah.
We've
Me
been saying
too.
soon a long time.
Yeah. I saw something where they thought they could do a full rollout in April.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Hopefully the healthcare workers will get it first, though.
Yep, that's who should.
Hey, Robert.
Evening, everyone.
Hello, Robert.
Robert.
Well, there's Mr. City Manager. How you doing, Mr. John?
He shaved his beard.
Either he don't want to talk to me or he's
I'm
not
doing
here.
good. No, I just had to unclick and things.
Okay.
I almost didn't recognize you, John. You're missing some hair there on your chin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
all over.
Yeah.
That's
Today
shaved
is
off
his-
like 20
today is
years.
his birthday. Today is his birthday, 62.
Oh, happy birthday, John.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
See how I celebrate with you guys. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
39, right, John?
Getting close.
Yeah.
Shave
we
off
still
a
got
little
him.
more and you'll be there.
We still got a minute left. We could sing happy birthday to him.
We could.
As long as we're recording it, that works.
Oh,
Hi, Tracy.
Hello. It's 5:30.
Okay, I guess we'll call this work session to order, and first item is discussion on the updated master street plan.
Okay. Phil, I just want to make sure Doug's here and I don't see him yet. So,
Same either.
yeah, we'll, I guess give him a minute, but, I guess Steven's not here either, but. Okay, well, I can go ahead and get started and hopefully Doug shows up here in a minute or two.
Well, do we want to do like the pledge and approve the minutes, and that'll give them some time to get in?
We can't do that till the agenda at 6:30.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I totally forgot we were doing a workshop. I'm already like ready to go. Okay, sorry.
It's dark outside.
Oh, Steve.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, Doug's here.
Good evening, Steve.
All right, well, we kind of called the meeting to order or started the meeting for those who just tuned in. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we will be going over the master street plan. And first, I just want to go over some background information. Well, what we're going to do over the next hour is we're going to go over background information, then we'll review the materials that we sent out. We will be asking for direction on the process involving engagement with the county government and the public. And you will have more opportunities past tonight to weigh in on the map and the text of the plan. So don't feel like you have to make sure you've solved the entire problem tonight. I don't mean problem, just you don't have to feel like you got to cram it all in an hour. We will also want feedback on the outreach materials because this is all still in draft format and this stuff will be getting pumped out, pretty soon. So we're not going to review this numerous times. So starting now, I'm going to go over what is here, the materials I handed out, and then after that, I'll pass the floor over to Doug, who will explain how the draft map was generated. And after that, Chad, the city engineer, and Phil will be weighing in further. And so I just want to go over the material so everyone make sure everyone sees it and understands kind of, what we're referring to as we talk. So hang on just a second. Okay. Okay, can you see the screen? My screen?
Yep.
It's a little bigger. Okay, so this document right here that says City of Cortez Master Street Plan is the text for the plan that basically tells planning staff at the city what they're supposed to do with the map, and how this works with the comp plan and just kind of what, the whole intent of the plan is for. So up next is the actual draft map, and I sent you all a separate PDF if it, in case it was easier for you to bring it up on your own screens, and then you could zoom in and refer to it separately from my screen share without having to scroll through the whole packet. I hope you all saw that email. If you zoom in, you can see more clarity on the dashed lines. When this is zoomed out, it doesn't show up as dashed lines, but when you zoom in, it is more, there's more resolution. Okay, so this map is the one that we're working with now. This is the Future Thoroughfares Cortez Master Streets Plan dated September 7th, 1999. It was adopted in 97 originally. I think there was a minor update, and then it stayed in this state since then. Not a lot outside of city limits, which is one of the big reasons we need to take another look at this. Kind of basic, but I think it does do its job. And then, okay, so up next is street classifications explained. This document is just to help people understand the difference between local, collector, and arterial streets, because those are really the ones we're dealing with on the map. This document is still a draft. However, I think the main thing is just, does the text cover the basis of giving people some background on what a, what a local street is, what a collector street is, and what an arterial street is. And we are going to be probably messing with the layout. This map here is the proposed street classifications. I believe this is a map that's based on CDOT street classifications. CDOT identifies our streets in a certain way to help them work with their street planning, their highway planning, and how the intersections work together. So if you have a local or a collector intersecting a state highway, they know what kind of improvements they need. That's my understanding, but Chad or Doug could, or Phil could correct me if that was inaccurate. This document is the kind of just an overview / FAQ document, so folks can read it and understand what its purpose is, what it does, and what it does not do. Kind of a little bit redundant, but I think hopefully that'll just help folks to understand that, this document's not a plan for eminent domain. We're not using the master street plan to just go out and start telling people we're taking their property. So just to clarify, that's not the goal of the master street plan. FAQs, why do we need it? Who uses it? What gives us the authority to have the plan, etc. This page here is just a screenshot of our website that Neva is working on. She's going to be plugging information into the website so that there's a place where all this is housed. We will put a link on here to the interactive map that I sent a link to you guys tonight that Doug is working on. And then after that is just our regular packet materials. So that's everything we have. And I guess, Doug, do you want, I'm going to unscreen share and let Doug, do you want to do the screen sharing now?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
Tracy. I will attempt to do this on my iPad for the first time. Sharing my
Someone else can take over if you need us to share the map.
sharing my screen. Tracy, are you seeing anything here? Are you seeing the map now?
No.
Bear with me just a second. Sorry, is it the share content button in the top, Tracy?
On a laptop, it's a green button that says share screen. Your iPad might show up differently.
It's usually in the bottom, in the middle. And there's like a little green icon that shows an arrow and it says share screen. There's usually like right in the middle, there's participants, share screen, and then record.
I'm not.
On your iPad, do you have the share screen button on the bottom?
No, there's nothing on the bottom. Well, I should have tested this out earlier, but I can talk through it. Tracy, could you share your screen again and then just bring up the PDF map that we'll be talking about?
Yeah.
And I'll just talk through this best I can.
All right.
And and I just want to say for those folks who would like, a paper copy of this, we can certainly provide that if you find it better to work off of that. So a little bit of the history. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
So a little bit of history of this is, I think we came up with our first draft in 2008. a couple planners ago here. And at that time, we were looking to update the master streets plan, bringing it from the 1999 version and adding a lot of the roads that it was sharing, updating it, especially outside the city. What we've done recently that I felt has really improved this plan is that we also had a real focus in town, and we were also showing, as Tracy included in your packet, the 2020 street classifications, which do align with what the CDOT classifications are for arterials, collectors, and locals. So really the vision is expanding that street classification out with future connectors. And we built all of that within this current map. So there's really a few different things to look at. One thing that we did add to the map, Tracy, if you just want to zoom into some part of town a little bit, is we did code within town the areas where we have existing right-of-way unbuilt streets. And where this is really going to help out, and where it's, and I think we really vetted everything and looked at everything, where this is really going to help out is, for instance, if you get an application for a right-of-way vacation, you need to be able to look at it. It says in that section of the code that you need to look at and consider if it's on the master streets plan. Of course, there's a lot of unbuilt right-of-ways, and we've included a lot of those in possible connections. Those are already essentially planned areas where we might build roads in the future. Provides either access to existing lots or access through to other connecting streets. And so the other thing that we did is we really are focusing on a pretty consistent 1 mile area outside the city to look at the county subdivisions, comment on the county subdivision processes. I believe part of the intent is so that we can plan for future A to B connectivity. That's a good area, Tracy. Future A to B connectivity, and so that we don't wind up with a lot of subdivisions just dead end upon themselves. If you look at this area that Tracy's has, we really don't know. That's a perfect view there, Tracy. If we really don't know exactly where the streets would be planned that would connect Highway 145 over to North Mildred 26 or Alamosa, but we do know that in the future we might want to plan for connectivity through there, not just for subdivisions that dead end within themselves. And another consideration is you might want to plan to build up an intersection, say at Fairway Drive, and have that come across and connect with Brandon's Boulevard. So we're drawing these somewhat arbitrary lines on the map just to be representative of the future connectivity we might want to achieve for a transportation system. And it's, the other thing I would say is this is not meant to be any sort of prioritization of where future roads are going to be built. It's more to look at acquiring right-of-way so that roads can be built in the future. And one area that I'd like to look at briefly, Tracy, if you get on the south of Golf Course Lane by the Rampart Street addition, it's a good example, I think, of how this process would work in the future. And it was working back at this time. It was very much, it seems like it was on planners' minds back in 2000s. Shortly after the first map was adopted, you have connectivity from Golf Course Lane, that now dead ends, and where that would connect down to East Empire Street. There's that big green block there was a annexation by the city, I believe, in around 2000, 2002. large developable piece of land. And with forethought, we did acquire right away. That's why that's that light blue color in there. We did acquire right away so that you could connect what is Rampart Street, Golf Course Lane, and potentially a Tucker Lane across. And that areas would network together. And I believe that's also an area where we used that right away to install a water line a couple of years ago. So it has infrastructure, it has right away, and that can promote future development. So that's really what we're looking at doing. Does that make sense?
Chad, you know, one of the things, and it's on, I guess, our ask list is, you know, to get with the county, because now we're 1 mile out, you know, this could go out to 3 miles by statute, and get their input. And so, you know, we're showing things within the city and what have you, and what just kind of generally makes sense with cutting sections and what have you, but we don't want people getting excited thinking that we're going to arbitrarily go build roads. You know, the road could be here, there. It just really depends on the type of development, if there is any. So that's really where we're hoping to head next, so that we can come back with a more comprehensive map that has, you know, the thoughts and input from the county.
And Tracy, are you able to bring up that interactive website link that you sent out? Okay. And this is one option if you all want to look at this. You can turn things off and on in the legend, but really all you have to do is zoom in, and the legend's already on the left-hand side. As you zoom in, if you really want to drill down, and the aerial imagery will turn on, and you'll be able to see the real structures and houses and so forth. Just, you know, you can randomly zoom into an area that might be interesting. And I find, you know, for a 3,000 foot view, the PDF is perfect. And then if you really want to look at a section, the imagery will turn on and you can see what's there. It should just generally turn on. So you can really explore things in more detail with this application. It's going to show exactly, it's always going to show exactly what we have proposed on the PDF map, which would be the paper map that would eventually be adopted. In the legend, you can also turn off that topographic map if you just want to see the imagery there, Tracy. That would allow people to see the imagery no matter what over in the content. You can turn that one off and it should show the, yeah, there you go. Then you just see the imagery, period. Yeah. And those gray hatched areas, those are what are already platted subdivisions. So for the most part, we're not going to be acquiring additional right of way in there. You might have to negotiate for right of way acquisition for a public road.
So any thoughts so far?
I have a question, Tracy. The aqua blue dotted lines down at the bottom, are those proposed roads?
Those are platted but not built roads. So technically,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They were dedicated to the city, but the developer in most cases didn't finish that part of the development.
Whereabouts? What's that location? Is that down around Brandon Gate?
That's correct.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, I can see it better now.
Is this the time just to ask any general questions at all, or would you like to address specific things first and move down a list, Tracy, or just kind of go for it?
I think, we can do questions on the maps and stuff, and then we can segue into maybe a discussion to get feedback from Planning Commission on the outreach stuff. So yeah, go ahead and I guess shoot general questions, and then just know I want to focus more on the outreach later.
Okay, perfect. One thing that I noticed on the map was that it was proposed for 25 years, a conceptual plan for the next 25 years. Do we maybe think that that might be a little too long? Could we potentially say, let's, review this every 5, maybe even 10 years and say, that way it's just not a major project or dealing every 20 to 25 years. That's one question that I have. And then, for the most part, I think that this is a really good looking map. I think that there's a lot of, like Mr. Roth said, there's a lot of A to B that makes a lot of sense. One road in particular that I looked at that I kind of wanted to talk about was what would be South Mildred going down through McElmo Creek. I realize that this is just a conceptual plan and that sort of thing, but that's in that particular area, that might be a pretty dicey one to try to build a road through for, anybody potentially developing. I know this isn't a set in stone thing or anything like that, but just one question on that particular road. And then one more question, and then this I think is the last one that I have, is what type of outreach did we have with any utility companies or utility providers or anything like that in adopting the area of influence in regard to serviceability of future thoroughfares and things of that nature?
Stephen, this is Chad. On your first question about the 25-year, that is simply a planning horizon. So we're just looking that far out. I would expect that the city, say every 5 years, would then update, reforecast, reproject instead of waiting 25 years, certainly. But, just this map would then become, updated as things get developed. But we're just trying to look far enough out. Just some of this stuff might be, kind of pie in the sky, but we still want to just capture some of that information. So it's not intended to just be a static document for the 25-year period.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
One of the things that might trigger a more frequent review is technically every year we're supposed to approve a 3-mile plan for annexation. And I believe that mentions the major street plan. So that every year it will kind of become top of mind. And then I agree with Chad. This is really a long range regional kind of approach to dealing with development outside of our jurisdiction, but with the idea that, at some point in the future, there may be more neighborhoods that need to connect for more services. So that kind of makes sense. There's a couple of things, and you guys probably hate me for this, but I'm a wordsmith. So the city of Cortez has a master street plan, but statute refers to it as a major street plan. And just to be consistent, do we want to switch the name to major, or is that going to force all of the surveyors to have to buy new stamps and change all their verbiage on the signatories for annexation plats? I just like it when words agree with each other. Sorry.
We do say comprehensive plan and not master plan on our comp plan.
Right, but it's called the master street plan, and state statute calls it the major street plan.
But I know, but I'm being.
Oh, you're just being a jerk.
Facetious.
She was being Tracy.
Yeah, I know. You're right. It is the same thing as comp plan and master plan. Okay, I'll stop overthinking that. So the street classifications, those are primarily talking about widths. Are there any other kinds of criteria to help define what a local and other than purpose to, I guess, a local arterial and connector might be? Also, the map says minor arterial. Are we distinguishing minor and major? And if we are, I didn't see any major identified on the map.
Yeah, I can answer that one for you,
Okay.
Rebecca.
Cool.
The CDOT does not classify any major arterials in our area. A major arterial is essentially, it's like one step down from a state highway. So we don't even have that classification, so we're not utilizing it.
Okay. Some of the major street plans that I've seen don't necessarily follow CDOT's definitions. Do you know, like, well, this is probably not a good example, but in smaller, more rural communities, people like to have even more narrow streets just because it promotes people driving slower. And so is there an opportunity to have streets that are less than 40 feet? I mean, if we want to talk about road diets at some point, is that something that could be addressed in this plan, or is that something that's more part of a comp plan discussion under that section?
You know, Becky, this is Chad. To me, that is a conversation for the design standards, which will be coming before you. I worked on them, revising them because they were about 11 years old, about a year and a half ago. So, you know, we want to bring that back. That's where the widths are set, and they're based on speed, vertical, horizontal alignment, mobility. We're trying to discourage through traffic, for example, through a residential neighborhood, through what would be a local street. There's things like that. And a lot of it, to me, is just kind of common sense. When you look at it, you say Texas Street, what should that be? Well, it's a local street, and it should stay that way. Collectors like Montezuma, because it has so many, it has driveways on it, it has multiple side streets. That is not, it's going to have multiple stop signs, a lot of traffic control. That's a collector. That's what they are. And then your arterials, you know, you go down to, say, 7th Street from like Chestnut on, you know, that's a roundabout way around town, to be honest. And so some of this is just judgment, you know, what makes sense. But when you start getting down to widths, they don't have to be 40 feet. They can be 32 is the width for a residential street, for example. We have a lot of on-street parking. So when you narrow that up, then it becomes a hazard, or can be. You know, kids stepping out and all of a sudden they're in traffic instead of having a buffer before they're in the middle of a vehicle. So those widths are not arbitrary. They weren't just generated by Cortez. There are standards out there in our other communities that that we look to for our standards, or I did. And I presume that's what happened when these were generated. I know those widths, just in looking at other communities, yeah, they're all within, you know, feet of each other. Those are pretty standard. And it's a lot of it's based just simply on safety.
Okay,
And-
I was just wondering if that was the, you know, if it matters in this point. Yeah, just wondering if it matters, or are we more concerned with alignment as opposed to width and classification
I
with
think
in the county as opposed to the actual details and standards?
you know, it's alignment to a degree, knowing that the alignments are going to be whatever fits for a future development, whatever makes sense. You know, and then the widths are all part of the development as well. But a lot of this is about right of way. So we want to make sure that we're showing what the city has as right of way. I've never seen that before. That's great information for a number of uses. But it's not so much about the street width within it. It's just making sure that as developments happen, that the city has the right of way, not just for streets, but for utilities, our water, the sand district, Atmos, you know, you name it. And just to make sure that that land is preserved for future uses, whatever they might be.
And one thing that I would add is that we do have, in that one map, we have it separate, little 8.5 by 11 map that says 2020 proposed street classifications. That map, because CDOT pretty much adopts what we have as our street classifications, we would have to lobby them a little bit to change anything. There are a few of those classifications we felt that were necessary, but CDOT really does use those classifications. They do around the entire state in order to, and sometimes they do their own road counters, off highway road counters, to make those classifications so that they can make those designs as we see them doing work at intersections and planning and so forth. They utilize those. So that's a real, you know, what's classified in their system for currently built roads does matter for what they're looking at doing in our town as it affects their highway system. And then one other thing that I think we're talking about rolling in some other documents, hopefully at some point in the future, we'll be looking at a future land use plan, a conceptual plan. I think, Becky, that's what you're talking about, that would lead into an annexation plan, looking at areas of opportunities and constraints around the city.
Yeah, they're two different things. There's a future land use plan that's part of your comprehensive plan, and that's its own section in a plan. So that's like a chapter. But the 3 mile plan for annexation by statute is a document that has to be approved every year before you can approve any kind of annexation. And that's more, you know, here's what this is existing on the grounds. And then the 3 mile annexation, well, yeah, that's more specific, but then how you deal with your future land use map is pie in the sky, visionary stuff that has to do with your community's goals. So there are two different documents. And that's why I just said one of them does, the annual one does mention the major streets plan. Just, I was only bringing it up to point out that that the major street plan, even if we're looking and we're trying to consider development so far in advance, like 20, 25 years, that doesn't mean the document's not gonna get revised, and that it wouldn't come to top of mind every year, because some things can get put on the shelf and you can forget about it, like the major street plan that we're dealing with now, which was from what, 97 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, I'll just shut up. Sorry.
And then to address one thing that Commissioner Candelaria also pointed out is that Empire Electric, for one that I can remember in particular, has come to us as they've been doing system planning, and they are asking for these planning documents that we're looking at, and they try and predict where growth is going to happen and where they might need to plan for system growth. reaching out to utilities, I'm sure Cortez Sanitation District would be the same. They can utilize these documents to look out into the future, what's possible.
A question about South McElmo Creek. That I'm not sure what that location is. Steve?
That was the $20 million bridge, Chad, we talked
Yeah,
about.
that's what I figured. That doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, the South Mildred Road going down through McElmo Creek.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
way.
we want to leave that for you guys to eliminate.
Yeah, that's in the county. So,
But some of those were put on there because it was literally you're looking at, boy, if we have constraints and we have nothing between essentially Oak Street 25 and 27, and we have no future connections, and we have two streets that are fairly well contained. Let's throw something in there, and I can't remember if that one's on the original plan or not. And if it's deemed unbuildable, then we should take it off. One interesting one right in that area there, Tracy, and it's when Southern Bluffs went in, and I believe 97 or 98, shortly after the master streets plan was adopted in 97, I believe Southern Bluffs came in 98. They actually did dedicate right away off of Bluffs Boulevard. You can see that light blue section over to what would be South Madison Street. That's why South Madison Street curves all the way over and connects with 12th and 13th. That section also seems pretty unbuildable, and yet they went ahead and dedicated those right-of-ways. You also do have an area in that part of town that is pretty isolated down there in some ways. So they were looking for ways to increase connectivity. So.
Could that have been for a trail, or would that make more sense as a pedestrian trail as opposed to it being included on a major street plan?
Well, I guess that's another question. If you have acquiring trail right away as well, there are other, around Southern Bluffs, there are other trail connections, but that could certainly be used for trails if it was acquired as well. Because I believe it's like cliff face down in there. But that was a vision at the time. It doesn't seem all that buildable, but they did it and they acquired the right of way.
Tracy, you want to tee off your discussion on next steps?
Yes. So the kind of the other piece of this discussion, other than the maps and everything else, is public outreach. Get that up. Gotta unrotate. So we have in this memo that came out with the packets, public outreach activities. So in the time of the pandemic, we kind of tossed around some ideas, and this is what we landed on as staff, was the GIS interactive map website, street plan overview, FAQs document, the street classifications explained handout, and then opportunities for the public to participate would be, had they signed on to this workshop, which we didn't really do a lot of advertising for it because we're trying to get feedback on what to do, but this is publicly noticed on our website and on the front door of the city hall, as is required for your meetings. online comments. So we would advertise that we have the website and advertise that there's a place for people to comment online, and then folks can do it at their own pace. We want to hold a Zoom meeting specifically for public outreach, which would not be a workshop to discuss this with P&Z or council. It would be to discuss it with the public. And then call staff means that people can call us and talk about it, and we would notify the public they're welcome to contact staff to discuss the master street plan. So that's what we've identified as ways to do public outreach. You know, we're kind of talking about a public Zoom meeting, and then basically just the website with all the information there and all the contact information, and you know, the interactive map that would be, you know, another way to engage with this process. So there's that with public outreach, and then also outreach with the county. And right now we've kind of identified meeting with the county planning staff and asking them how, you know, what, possibly letting them take the conversation to their boards and have, you know, their recommendations handled by county staff. So we just want to get feedback from the P&Z on that plan, and if you want to add, delete, suggest.
Okay, I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
I think I'd like to see the county engaged before trying to do outreach with the public, so that we're all on the same page. And also, working with the public, I think it's good to have, you know, make sure people are aware of what currently exists. And then I like to have like 2 other scenarios, like a more well planned out version and kind of a less more conservative idea of what the road build out might be, to just kind of give 2 different versions, or if you include the existing one too, you have 3 versions of like the do nothing, add a lot, or just add a little. And then that way it gives people a chance to kind of respond and envision. And when we do outreach with the public and with the county too, I think it would be really helpful to, I appreciate having those GIS layers. I didn't see those before the meeting, and I was really wishing that we had some kind of contour or aerial to look at. So that's really helpful. I personally think for the purposes of a major street plan, because statute does say 3 miles, and if we're reviewing subdivisions in the county that are up to 3 miles, but to conformance with a major street plan, but then the major street plan only goes up to 1 mile, you know, I understand we're not talking about building roads, but at the same time, it would be helpful to have some kind of guidance in that area, you know, beyond the 1 mile radius.
You know, one of my thoughts on that, Becky, the whole 3 mile, because we've met multiple times as a group kind of going over that, because we have one of those. You've probably seen it. And we wanted to, you know, not presume where the county would think we should have roads. We wanted to work with them. So that's why we kind of dialed this back to 1 mile. And now we'll go meet with Don Tanner and whoever, maybe Shaq. And, you know, we can look beyond the 1 mile. I expect, at least for me, that's what we would be doing, but we want to do that jointly. And so, I think that's the next step to me.
That's exactly right, Chad. And in fact, this plan does go out to 3 miles. And we decided to focus these maps in on 1 mile, because that's really where I feel that we as city staff need to get into the weeds, because that's what's really going to affect us most directly. And then we'll engage the county in that 1 to 3 mile area and have them make a lot of those decisions. So hopefully we'll wind up with a plan that does cover that entire area.
Yeah, and that, you know, that could be, I would like to not have too many versions of a map, because to me, that gets confusing or could confuse people, especially if they see one with roads running through their front yard. And, you know, I don't want to create unnecessary concern. But I think what you're talking about will be an outcome for meeting with the county. You'll see a lot more, you know, right-of-ways basically, or potential right-of-ways, but with their input.
Okay, so that kind of gets back to the timing of the next steps.
Well, yeah, we do have the next step to be to meet and discuss with the county planner. So that's gonna expand there based on this discussion and their desires.
And I just want to chime in here. I mean, it's really important to remember that, you know, going to the county next, and then letting you all digest this data that you've gotten tonight. We're going to come back to you in January before we go anywhere else. So it's going to be a matter of integrating the county input, what you've had to add or retract or change, however you see fit between here and there. And then we're going to move on from that point of bringing, you know, your perspective and theirs in, and then we can drive the mission from there with regards to outreach and how.
Super, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Tracy, looks like to me that you guys have things well thought out and planned out, and it looks good, and I appreciate all the work the city staff has done. And the timing of things, yeah, the public's not going to go till February or March or whatever, and so working with the county is essential, and that's good. And that, to me, when I read that, that's the way it was spelled out. So thank you for all your work.
Yeah, and this timeline, you know, obviously is not set in stone.
One question I had, when you do meet with the county, do you guys do it in person or do you have to do it over Zoom?
That's a tough one to have Zoom wise. That's a great question. Because I would like to sit down with the map, with markers, put it up on the wall, put it on a table and scribble on it. Maybe we just can't do that. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, we could do that in the training room at the service center because we have the big screen for interactive visuals of any documentation, and we can space ourselves in that room and work on some big pieces of paper like Chad's saying. I think that'd be best served.
We'll get a lot more done. It'll make more sense to everybody.
Yeah, I would encourage somehow trying to do it in person.
Yeah.
Makes communication more effective.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I also agree with that. I think that for the purposes of this, I'm just echoing that in person is much more effective and efficient.
Well, get those plastic umbrellas that come down over our upper bodies for protection.
I was just gonna say I'll pay you $10 if we require the county people to wear their masks. Sorry, that was unexcusable. I apologize.
Well, I agree. It's much easier to sit around a table, but I don't have a problem meeting in a small group. So I guess it just depends on how many people.
There are ways to share your screen and then allow people to annotate. Have you guys ever done that before on a Zoom? And then you can save that screen with everyone's notes on it.
Haven't done it by Zoom, no.
Yeah, it's pretty cool just to give that opportunity to people who are not able to attend in person, because who knows what's going to be like in January and February.
Tracy, have you covered about everything you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I mean, unless someone has more suggestions adding to what you see on your screen, I hope right now. I think we've got a pretty good path forward. You know, we can close the workshop and then just, you know, at the very end of the regular meeting, if there's, you know, something somebody meant to say or thought of in the next half hour, we can revisit, because we did put, you know, this on the regular agenda, and so we could get specific direction then if necessary.
All right, yeah, I'm just keeping my eye on the time, and we've got about 9 or 10 minutes yet before the regular meeting, so I guess we can make any additional comments at the regular meeting then, if you think of some between now and then. In the meantime, if nobody objects, we'll take a short break.
One quick thing that I would like to add in regard to public outreach. I realize that's several months down the way and we'll have time to discuss this further, but something that we all can be thinking about is who the key stakeholders are in regard to what this is. I mean, in regard to any public outreach, you're going to have key stakeholders. And for me, obviously, I think that most importantly is city and county staff, obviously developers, utility companies, things of that nature, and then obviously to the general public. But I think that we need to prioritize who the key stakeholders are. And I would encourage everybody to think about who they think that is, and we can circle back to that at a later date. But that's something we can be thinking about in the meantime.
It might be an idea to somehow add maybe to our website or whatever, that if people want to join an email for a reminder, like Stephen was talking about, key stakeholders or whatever, you know, and you send out a broadcast, an email that, oh, we've got a reminder of 2 days or whatever on this date that we have a public information meeting. That might be another possible outreach.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty achievable, I think, but I don't know specifically how to, but we'll look into that.
Figure something out.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to identify or invite or consider them key stakeholders, property owners, where there might be new proposed road alignments, even, and I don't even want to call it proposed, but just like proposed to be drawn on a map at some point as something. Sorry, I'm using those words because the major street plan, it's advisory, and I don't want anybody to get up in arms and go like, oh my God, they're driving, they're doodling through my property. But is that something that would be worthwhile in trying to identify those people and notifying them?
I think it is possible.
Basically, that gives you some food for thought, I guess, and tying with what Stephen said also. So got about 7 minutes before the next meeting. So if anybody else has any pertinent conversation or comments, we can adjourn and take a short break. Not hearing any extra, let's go ahead and adjourn this work session, and we'll see you back in about 5 minutes.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, city staff. Thank you, Chad, Phil, everybody. Appreciate all the hard work. Tracy.
Thanks.
We got about a minute to go. If people want to start gathering back in. Tracy and Linda, are you back yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, it went blank on me. Hey, guys.
Let's see, we should have everybody.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, Stephen.
Rebecca, are you back? There you are. Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the regular meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
United States of America, and to the republic for which it
stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the last meeting. Any comments in reference to those? They looked good when I read them, but
Mr. Chairman, after reading the minutes, I move that we approve the meeting for the minutes for the meeting on, yes, that date,
November 3rd.
November 3rd. Thank you, Linda.
Welcome.
Second.
is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's go ahead and vote then.
Candelaria,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Remy.
Yes. Third item is business for the commission. I guess we don't really have anything underneath that. And the next would be citizen participation. Are there any citizens that would like to comment in their 3 minutes, or whatever they have? I guess seeing none, then we'll go to discussion items. And the first one is emergency measures for the land use code, dealing with the outdoor dining. Ms. Tracy, are you gonna?
Yeah, I'll kind of explain the discussion. This came up because we had a business that wanted to enclose a patio, and at that point it becomes additional gross floor area and additional lot coverage. And so because our land use code requires a full review of site plans, and then it requires a full review of certain expansions that exceed a threshold, a lot of folks are going to have to go through a 2-hearing process to make those changes to their property. So we wanted just to ask P&Z, and I believe we're going to probably also follow up with City Council on that topic, just to explore ways we might be able to enact an emergency measure so that we can maybe have some flexibility for things like enclosing a patio or building a roof type structure outside, so that they can react to the current social distancing measures more adeptly. And so I guess we just want to see what you guys think, and see if you have any ideas too, but I don't know what we can really do aside from amending the land use code, but we can look into it.
So I would, to kind of state things, my understanding is due to COVID, people just want to have some outdoor space to be able to serve their food. And a streamlined way to get that to happen, because ultimately the city council would have to come up with some emergency authorization or something like that. Is that a fair understanding of restating things maybe?
I believe so. We could also try to really quickly maybe write something and amend the land use code, but that's going to take time.
Well, commissioners, I would prefer that we just let city council, we recommend them come up with some emergency orders or whatever plan that they can do goes along with the CDC. Obviously you're gonna have to have some heaters, but something long emergency. I mean, I feel the businesses, I feel their pain. So whatever we can do to help speed up the process short of reinventing the wheel and redoing the whole code. And again, it would only pertain to emergency situations. Anybody else have any?
I agree with Robert. I think anything at all we can do to help the business owners get over the problem we're having right now, or to expedite the process to construct something or an outside area where they can have more customers. I think I'm all for that. And I think that's what we need to recommend to the city council.
Tracy, are they talking about permanent structures? I mean, permanently building onto to their existing building to cover the patios?
That's correct.
And would it be possible to suggest tents with the outdoor butane heaters? Is that not going to work for them?
We have suggested that, and that's not something the folks are looking at wanting to do. We have had some people ask about moving the tables into the parking lot and putting up tents, and we've said, you know what, just kind of go ahead and do that. If you're reducing your capacity and it's matching your available parking, just go ahead and do that. There is an outdoor dining license that's available. We haven't actually had a lot of people come through for that. We had, I think, one person actually follow through on something they had started before COVID. But yeah, we have had one or two business owners looking to do permanent changes. And that's what triggers the full review with the land use code. It's like 1,000 square foot addition.
Well, good question, Lance. My my interpretation was it was temporary. So I guess if they want to do something permanent, I would lean towards them going through the whole process then.
That would be my thought.
Yeah.
But
Stephen or Rebecca, you got any comments?
It's tough. I mean, is there a shorter site plan review process that would only be triggered based on square footage, like them going over a certain amount of square footage or something like that, where maybe it doesn't have to go through like 2 hearings but 1 hearing, but it still gets a full review? Or is there, I guess it depends on what the situation is, but I tend to agree that I would love to be more flexible on any kind of temporary extension, especially during these winter months. But when they're talking about building a permanent and adding on to a permanent structure, I'm not sure expediency is the best interest of the community at large in the long run. That's just my concern. But if there's a way to maybe speed up the review process, but not shortcut any of the review.
Yeah, I think, so the current land use code states if it's 5% or more increase in floor area, they have to go through the full process. So we can review like a 4.9% increase in floor area administratively. It depends on the structure. Sometimes that's not a very big expansion. You know, and then there's some other thresholds like lot coverage and excess of 5% or 1,000 square feet. So there is a threshold for administrative review. Sometimes that's not a very big threshold for some really small building, in which case it does seem awfully silly when they're building like a 300 square foot enclosed patio. 1,000 square foot enclosed patio, or even like a 2,000 square foot enclosed patio, might be a different story. So that, you know, that's kind of what we're working with, is an existing developed site wanting to expand and exceeding the administrative review thresholds.
So would there be a way to increase those thresholds, or whatever, what I'm trying to increase or reduce those thresholds to make it easier for an administrative review then?
Well, that's why I'm not sure.
Excuse me, I keep hearing the term enclosed patio. If it's going to be enclosed, why are we going through this process?
Do you mean, why do they have to go through a process, or why would we waive the process?
No, I'm just wondering, if the patio is going to be enclosed, why go through building a patio? I don't understand the enclosed portion of a patio. It's my understanding a patio is possibly a roof over to keep the sun off or the rain off, and it being open on at least 3 sides.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be for people dining outside. There's restrictions on the restaurants now where you can't go inside to sit down and eat.
Well, in this particular case, it's a slab. The patio is a slab of concrete, and they want to put a roof over it and put walls up around it.
Then it's no longer a patio.
Yeah.
It basically becomes an addition at that point, right? If they're putting walls up, then is it a patio or is it because maybe by enclosure they thinking put like the sheets of plastic down, or is legitimately walls, framed walls with infrastructure within the walls type of deal? What's the actual end purpose supposed to be? Is it an additional room or is it a patio?
That's my question, Steve. Exactly.
Right. Well, I think it's going to be kind of like what I'm from. We call it an Arizona room. So it's an enclosed patio, but it doesn't have heating or cooling. I don't.
And that example is at this time just a hypothetical, because there's not going to be a measure in time to help that particular constituent, but it did raise the question of, putting a roof or over a outdoor dining area. What are the thresholds? Where is their flexibility? Just because it's probably not the last time it's going to come up if this continues for 6 more months.
I guess my 2 cents on it is making sure that we understand fully whatever, the constituent wants to put forward and seeing exactly what they want to do. And also too, I'm going to say that anything that we can do to expedite any process, whether it's a full process or an emergency related type deal, because in these unprecedented times, our small businesses are struggling terribly. And anything that we can do to help them get through something more quickly, 1 month could make or break a business. Yep. So for me, I think that whether the structure is permanent or not, in regard to a roof over a patio, like with what Tom.
Pretty much, is it a permanent structure or is it a patio to try to meet COVID relief?
Right.
And so I guess our recommendation would be to City Council to look at 2 different areas.
Well, whatever they decide to do, or whatever type structure someone wants to build, whether it be permanent or just a roof over a slab for a patio, will have to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, which we can recommend to the city council.
Yeah, unless the city council gives emergency authorization to the city, even the city manager, to have administrative oversight.
Also too, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and no one else here, but I'm going to throw this out here. I understand that P&Z only meets once a month. If a particular business was needing to bring something before the Planning and Zoning Commission, if staff, let's say that one of these comes across the plate for staff tomorrow, they say, yeah, this is good to go, and it sits on the shelf for a month until we're able to come back and review it. I'm willing to meet any night of the week, any week of the month, to say, yeah, here's our stamp of recommendation, and we can move this forward. And maybe that's some flexibility on our end of saying, hey, that's how we can help expedite the process. If something absolutely has to come to the commission to give a recommendation to council, I'm willing to meet anytime to help the small businesses.
I'll ditto that, Steve. That's a real good point.
Sure, we can always advertise 24 hours in advance an emergency meeting.
And along those lines, I think even just eliminating them from having to come in front of P&Z and having it be a staff approval would be even better. Yeah.
City council meet next week?
Then staff's liable.
I feel like we're probably liable anyway.
City council meet next week?
Yes, right?
So maybe that can get put on their agenda. Our recommendation. Once Linda figures out what it really is.
You guys did a good job on that. You got it down.
Any other comments on trying to help the local businesses? Okay. Then discussion on master street plan. Anybody think of anything else to bring up? Wait to hear back from you after you guys meet with the county then and see what they have to say. Next item then was the building permits issued. Any other items of business? The previous business. And I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Let's go ahead and vote, Linda.
Butler,
Yes.
Candelaria,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yep.
Levy,
Sure.
Reamy.
Yes. Thank
Merry
you, everyone.
Christmas.
Thank you, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Good night.
You
Good
too.
night. Bye-bye.
Happy
We'll miss
birthday,
you.
John.
Merry Christmas.
Happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, John.
Yeah, happy birthday, young guy.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.